Okay. Hello and welcome to the Friday night stream of the Untitled Anarchist Seagull channel on this dark and stormy night, at least around here. Hello. Good to see you as always. Okay, let's... no, not like that. Well, that's because we got the shitty weather. What? The rain is freezing, too. Okay. To get this crop right. Well, today was fun. The Polyglot conference started, which was really cool, and then I went to get a flu shot, which was kind of meh. Okay, maybe just start out with a little bit of rapid. Okay. Let's make sure that crop looks okay. Ah, hell. There we go. That's better. Yeah, for once. Okay. Turns out you basically never don't take on D4 at this stage of the English. Surprised me, but there you are. I get it fairly often, actually. I think what it really comes down to is very few, the people I play have actually seen in English, so most of them don't actually have any kind of set repertoire against it, so they sort of play something that seems to work right. And at this point, I actually find this a bit annoying because it's already fucked up my preferred Botvinnik setup. I think this might be the Keddish. No, there wasn't. Wait a second. They didn't play. No. C4, E5, G3, C6. Yeah, this is actually close to the Kaddish system. Okay. Fun. How's the audio, by the way? You hearing me okay? Excellent. Seems that the audio issue has finally been more or less sorted out. Touching wood. Just in time for the overhead light to die. Oh, well, actually, it kind of looks cool. It'll come back on. It's been doing this all day. Let me see if I can just jack up this LED a bit to compensate. There we go. And here we go. Told you. Okay. Oh, it's still there, move. Ah, hello there. Yeah, it's happened twice. It was in the middle of the group chat I was in at Polyglot Conference. The light went out. But I have to say, actually, the LED on this external webcam really isn't bad. I mean, it actually looks like I deliberately set up the lighting that way, which is kind of cool. You know, I'm surprised that there's not more fanfic shipping Vosh and Caleb Maupin and Xander Hall. Because for all their superficial sniping, they really are kindred spirits. And I have been remiss in not having more of a go at the other two of them. No. Oh, well, no, that's okay. The bishop cards. I know I have. Although I have to say, Caleb Maupin has a voice that's about as sexy as Bill Lumbergh in Office Space. Yeah, I mean, now Black can't castle, so I'm actually kind of happy with that. I mean, yeah, Black can only castle kingside at this point, and not even that, because... Tee-hee-hee. Okay. Me castle to safety now. Okay, that's fine. I was kind of hoping to open up the F-file. Okay, it's not quite how I wanted to go. Now my bishop has been comprehensively badified. But, okay, yeah, no, let's just get that out of there. Oh, come on, just open up the F-file, will you? Actually, that pawn move was fairly inspired. That's the only reason they were able to, castle just now. Ooh, thank you. Now I can get up to D5, which is the destiny of my knight in this line. Oh, what, you're clearing the way for me to go to D5 with my monster knight. Okay. 이럽소. 그치서. I have to say, these polyglot meetings, the two that I've been to now, I was at the gathering a few months ago, which is how I heard it, that there was also the conference. And they're wholesome. It's really quite enjoyable. Okay, what's the thinking here? The thinking will most likely be to stick that queen on, I guess, g3 or something. Oh shit, how did I not notice? Oh, please don't obviate it. Oh, actually, I can't do it yet anyway. That knight on c6 is blocking me. Get that knight off c... Oh, that knight has hardly got any squares. That's why that knight's still on c6. Okay. Oh, now that knight is no longer on c6. Okay, I feel like I'm gonna get my queen trapped at this, right? Oh no, I've got something better. I got something better than taking that rook, I think. Oh, that isn't as good as it looks. Shit, okay, that was... Forgot that that pawn wasn't there anymore. Bloody hell. Okay. Necessity is the mother of rooklets. Maybe the point of that was to get me to stick my queen in a very inconvenient space where it would be really easy to trap it. Well, on the other hand, it's not like their queen has all that many places to go at this point. Giving the king some luft, which is like the Yiddishest expression in all of chess. Gonna give the king some luft. That sounds like something like one of my great uncles would say. I need some luft, open a window. Come on, light. Give me this stream, would you? Okay, I think we've run out of ways that that knight can usefully threaten my rooks. Oh, on the other hand... I've got 420 left. Nice. The Red Death Mask has one of you. I know this because at least some of them were against me. Okay. This may not be... Yeah, I was quite right. I was going to say that may not be a great decision, and it was not. GG. I'm sure we've played on chess.com a couple of times. Okay, maybe you're someone other than I'm thinking you are. Although I'm confused. Well, that's definitely a possibility. It has not been recently. Okay, this is exceedingly... Maybe you're someone other than I was assuming you were. This gets difficult keeping track of all of these usernames. Okay. We could go with Old Faithful and look at 10 things you didn't know about Caleb Maupin, including the fact that he's the subject of really unerotic fanfic with Foch and Zanderhall. Should the left accept ex-Nazis? Frustrating debate with a stubborn boomer. Well, between a stubborn boomer and a guy who isn't an ex-Nazi but plays one on TV. He's just not quite ex enough. And then we've got Vosh trying to find nuance on the CIA losing their agents. You know, I think as a warm-up, maybe just 10 things you didn't know about Caleb Maupin. Just get that going. Good old-fashioned...
Jump right in.
Okay. He looks more like Ed Rooney in Ferris Bueller's Day Off every time I encounter him.
To the 10 things that you did not know about me. Now, someone's saying you're not a natural redhead. Part of me wishes that was the case, but I'm definitely a natural redhead.
It's the only thing red about him.
So there you go. All right. 10 things you did not know about Caleb Maupin. Number 1.
I am very pedantic.
I once won $100 for impersonating Elvis Presley. That's right. When I was a student, I won $100 for my Elvis impersonation. I dressed in the costume, I got a wig, and I impersonated Elvis, and I won the school talent show.
Okay, See, if you're going to take the anecdote out to this length, you could add new information. Maybe tell us about what happened. See, we got that you impersonated Elvis, which probably involved some costuming, and that you won because you told us 3 times. What I find interesting here, though, is this is sort of a different sort of content from him because he had previously used to rail against the idea. Yeah, I know. He looks like he's filming in an aeroplane toilet. He looks like he's just sort of sneaked away and instead of doing blow or a cigarette. Yes, that seems possible. I mean, like previously, he's expressed sort of resentment at the idea of doing. Is like, if I wanted to be popular, I would show you pornography and all this stuff, and sort of browbeating people like, yeah, remember to like and subscribe, Bueller, and all this shit, and now he's doing this like soft focus thing, and in a new backdrop because we haven't previously seen the wall with the holes in it. Usually, it's either the HR desk, or just the straight up wall that is sort of angled like he's in Apollo 11.
And it was a hit. It was on local access television, and yeah, that was 8th grade, and I brought the house down. Audience participation. I did Elvis, and I won $100, and that was a big deal. People talked to me about it around town for the next 5 years of my life. I would go every.
Okay, now I actually kind of dislike him more, hola norm, because when I was in 8th grade, we also had a talent show, and I was going to do taekwondo for it. I was in a taekwondo demo team, and I was gonna like fucking do some like set up some board breaks. I needed some boards, so I go to the woodshop teacher. Sigue siendo que le mopin. Um, he goes. So I go to the woodshop teacher and he gives me some boards, and they look like no fucking normal boards, like the ones I'd broken quite a few times. Get this all set up on there, which was difficult because I didn't have anyone who was used to holding boards for people to break, and you have to be able to do it and hold the board completely still, otherwise you fuck the whole thing up, and that means, not flinching, which, yeah, was difficult. But, so I get up there, I get the whole thing set up, I got my, my dobok on, my taekwondo uniform on and stuff, and I'm gonna fucking nail this thing, and it was kind of important because I was treated like absolute shit in no, this wasn't year 8, this was year 6. And so I get up there, and it's all set up, and the fucking woodshop teacher had given me pressure-treated lumber. That shit would not have broken if you'd shot at it. And it was the talk of the school, and I was really, really glad that at the end of the year we moved to another district. Because people would not let me, and it was not good-natured either.
Right. You're that Elvis guy? You won the contest dressing as Elvis? I'd be like, yes, I was the Elvis guy. I was the Elvis guy.
And now are you that condescending guy who won that competition for most likely to cite Dugan approvingly?
Won $100. And it was interesting because my grandmother, her minister at her church, she was a Lutheran, her minister was also an Elvis impersonator. So he actually trained me to be an Elvis impersonator.
Wait, is this all they fucking do in Northern Ohio? Like, Southern Ohio's dire, but is this what people do north of Columbus, is just impersonate Elvis and become Nazbols?
So I remember I went and sat down with the minister and my grandmother's minister, and he showed me little moves to make and how to shake my knees and the kind of things to do with my voice and the lip, and I learned to be an Elvis impersonator from my 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 grandmother's minister, and that's how I ended up winning $100 as an Elvis impersonator. So there you go. I bet
He
you never
is
guessed that I won
the grandson of
$100
one
for
of
my
the
Elvis
Elvis guy's
impersonation.
parishioners.
But that's why I promised you that this is a live about things you did not know about me, and you didn't know that. Next one. I spent 2 weeks at Eagle Butte Reservation. I bet you didn't know that, right? But yes, when I was a high school student, I went and volunteered at Eagle Butte Reservation. That is a Native American reservation. And I stayed there for 2 weeks. I helped clean out a graveyard. I worked in the community center. It was quite an experience for me to spend a lot of time on this reservation.
And it was the introduction to this idea. Come
it was
on.
Quite an experience.
Why
it was quite an
wouldn't this
experience.
thing pause?
I've never done that before.
Thank you. Yes, and it started his thing where he confused travel with being at the forefront of a movement.
And it was educational for me. And I would see the AIM newspaper for the American Indian Movement, like in gas stations. And there was kind of a pride in the indigenous heritage. The reservations were very divided. You had Native Americans who converted to Christianity and Native Americans who practiced indigenous religions.
And just recently, he and 4 other white sort of reactionary shitlords got together to explain why land back and indigenous self-determination are bad things, actually.
There was a big divide. A lot of Native Americans are in the U.S. military. I didn't know that. But yeah, that was an experience for me, and I'm really glad I had that experience. So that was number 2. Number 3, I had...
Jesus, he manages... They say that Magnus Carlsen, that his true talent is squeezing the joy out of any position that you set up for him. And this fucker here, he manages to squeeze the excitement out of any story he tries to tell.
I had an uncle who was in Hollywood movies. Bet you didn't know that, but yes. My Uncle James, my mother's brother, he was a theater professor in Chicago. And he had been in a number of movies. He was in the movie A Bridge Too Far as an extra, and he was in a number of Hollywood movies. He was in an episode of Chicago Story, which was like a police show, and yeah, he had a lot of acting gigs in TV and movies. And
an acting gig. That's an acting gig that stands in when the acting gig is sick or otherwise incapacitated. The acting gig.
He was kind of my hero when I was a kid. Right? Because I lived in a very, very small rural area, but he lived in Chicago, which was this big city. And I would go to his apartment with him and my aunt, and, I would see they were in theater, they were in movies, and they were living in Evanston, which was in Chicago. And
God, that is Chicago's, concentrated whiteness district. That's the place where people go when Oak Park, where the Pumpkin Spice Latte Brigade go when Oak Park starts to make them feel uncomfortable. Okay, have a good night.
And wow,
thanks for showing up. Always good to see you.
I was just in awe of my uncle. And he was, he was in movies, and he taught acting classes. He was an acting professor. And he actually died when I was 11 years old. He had a heart condition called Marfan's syndrome, and he died, and his memorial was very widely attended, and he was a bagpiper.
Okay, hey, this is the law. Does he understand the idea of an anecdote? He
played the bagpipes. And he because of his heart condition, he couldn't ride a normal bicycle, so he rode a recumbent bicycle, and he actually biked around the world in his recumbent bicycle. So he was well known as this promoter of recumbent bicycles. Those are bicycles where instead of having the bars in front of you, you have the bars.
Jesus Christ,
so he was really a go-getter. He was somebody who did a lot of things, and he eventually, he died at the age of 45 from his heart condition. But he was kind of my hero when I was a kid. And he was in movies, and he was a professor, and yeah, that was my uncle. I really looked up to my uncle. He wore a leather jacket all the time. He thought that was very cool. He wore a leather jacket, but he didn't want people to think he was a racist because apparently a lot of biker guys are. So he wore a leather jacket, and he had this
also living in Evanston.
button with racism crossed out on his leather jacket, so no one would think he was a racist. So he wore a leather jacket with this, no racism button on it. That was my uncle, my Uncle James, who died when I was 11, and he was kind of my hero. So there you go. All right. Another thing I bet you didn't know about Caleb. Which one do I want to do next? I'm not doing these in any particular order. Well,
Or with any particular panache.
I was given a shotgun when I turned 18. My grandfather loved shotguns. And when we would go visit my grandfather in Missouri.
Oh God, what we're going to hear, we're going to talk about Missouri, and then it's going to be the fucking history of Missouri, and then we're going to have every single variety of shotgun that exists in the state of Missouri, and then you've got the street sweeper, you see, and this wasn't one of those. This was a double barrel, breech loader.
We would go shoot clay pigeons, right? They had this machine, these discs, ceramic discs, and you would take the shotgun and you would shoot the shotgun. And it was a tradition in my father's family that any time that that a young man turned 18, my grandfather would give them a shotgun. And so I remember I was 18, and my grandfather gave me a shotgun. And
did your when you turned 18, okay, did your grandfather by any chance possibly give you a shotgun?
No desire to own a shotgun. So as soon as we were gone, I said to my dad turned to me, he said, "Do you want the shotgun?" I said, "No." And he said, "Okay, I'll get rid of it." And I never actually owned it. I must have, I guess, it was given to me and then my dad got rid of it. But I had no desire to own a shotgun. But yes, when I was 18, my grandfather made a big deal of giving me a shotgun, as he gave to every young man.
Even the fucking graphics he's picked for this are lifeless.
Okay, here's one thing.
He queued up these graphics, and
I have a theory.
Oh God!
About the Washington Monument.
Oh God! Okay, now we have to brace ourselves. Okay, this has been just sort of normal Caleb boredom, with much less really weird ass smears. But now we're gonna have a theory about the Washington Monument.
I have a theory about the Washington Monument.
Do you have a theory about the Washington Monument, Caleb? I heard that you might.
Right? Now, we all know it's cliche. What does the Washington Monument look like?
Okay.
Right? We all know what it looks like. But
thanks for showing us anyway.
There's more to that story. Folks who look into the life of George Washington, the father of our country.
Oh yeah, oh God, they're so fucking communist. They're the father of our country. Not even sounding ironic when he says it.
We'll know that George Washington's children were all adopted. Why? Because when George Washington was a child, he had the measles.
Actually, it was syphilis. He was born with
it. And it left him sterile. And George Washington was unable to have an erection. Right?
Yeah, and yet he was still the one of the biggest dicks of his generation.
George Washington was unable to have an erection. So the statue, the Washington Monument,
was mocking him.
Looks a lot like something that George Washington could not do.
Yes, he also could not fashion his dick to a large point, I imagine.
My theory has always been.
I thought you just told us your theory, Caleb. Jesus
George
Christ.
Washington was old, and he was sitting around in the bar with his friends, And they said, George, you have it all. You're the richest man in the 13 colonies. You're the richest, you're the first president of the United States. You're this very prominent military leader. But there's one thing that all of us can do that you cannot do. And so when you die, as a joke, we are going to make a statue of the
Does he understand how to tell a joke?
one thing that you cannot do. That's why the Washington Monument was built. Now, I have no evidence of this, but I find it to be an
Thanks
odd
for
coincidence.
clarifying that. I mean, that distinguishes it so much from your other theories, like your book about the conspiracy of BreadTube.
That George Washington, who could not have an erection, his monument looks
I
like
don't need to hear Caleb Maupin saying erection over and over again, okay?
a giant erection. It's odd.
Thank you.
Things like that just don't happen, right? And no one ever talks about the fact that he was sterile, that he had measles as a child and could not have an erection. So
Does he understand that sterile and impotent aren't the same thing? Because he keeps on talking about sterility, and as if not having an erection is a consequence of it. You can be sterile and get it up. I mean,
think, it's supposed to be an Egyptian obelisk, but I have a feeling that it's an inside joke.
yes, you are. Is it God? Just how the hell does he? How does he have any audience at all? He just leaving aside all the other shit. He is the worst storyteller ever.
That's my theory, right?
Yes.
Put that in your
okay.
pipe and smoke it. I could be completely wrong.
Okay, you really?
Definitely not a historian, but I have a feeling. I have a feeling that that's what was going on there. Alrighty, what other things do you not know about Caleb? Oh, here's one. I taught a class of white kids,
Yeah, well, okay, so far this isn't shocking me.
all white kids, about
No.
Kwanzaa.
Oh, fucking hell. Well, actually, really surprising, given that it's him, I could see him, lecturing a class of black people about what Kwanzaa is.
When I was a senior in high school, I was a student teacher. I was part of this program they had at my high school called Career Pathways to the Teaching Profession, where you got college credit for taking a class on education, and then you were a student teacher. You would assist teachers. And
Yes, that's what student teachers are.
so I was part of that program, and I taught fourth grade. I taught in a first grade class, then I taught in a fourth grade class. And in the fourth grade class, I was with them, and there were 3 days before the holiday, and the teacher had me come up with a lesson plan. And I said, well, why don't I do a lesson on holidays other than Christmas, other than the Christmas?
Yeah, I mean, it's like, okay, he planned to do this. He came up with this list. We know that because he came up with the fucking boring ass graphics to display. And he didn't give any thought to how he was going to tell the story. Because you could have told this story, I could have told this story already. I don't even know what the ending is, but I could have told it and it would have been more listenable than this shit. Jesus.
Christian holiday of Christmas. And she said, that's a great idea. And so I taught them about Hanukkah.
Oh God!
And then
Yes.
I taught
Yeah, I mean, I would not want to be a fly in the wall when Caleb Maupin is teaching people about anything Jewish. Just saying.
them about Kwanzaa. And I'll tell you, this class full of...
Oh no, I can totally believe him lecturing a class full of black kids about Kwanzaa, all of whom probably knew more about it than he did, because that wouldn't be hard, because I don't know, maybe back in those days he prepared and knew what he was talking about before he opened his mouth, and then he sort of outgrew that because of the dialectic.
all white kids. Every kid in that class was white. They thought Kwanzaa was the coolest thing they had ever heard of. I showed them videos about Kwanzaa. We talked about it. I went over, there's like 14 principles of Kwanzaa, and they thought Kwanzaa was really, really cool. They wanted to have like a Kwanzaa party. The teacher said, no, 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 let's not get out of control. But I remember I had a great time teaching a class of fourth graders who were all white about Kwanzaa. That was cool. That was one of my coolest experiences.
God damn it, this scrolled on me again.
And in a way, I feel like it was a little bit of activism because...
Yeah, really? Like, okay, this guy goes after anyone he thinks has not actually done enough. But with him, it's like, yeah, so I was a student teacher and I told some kids about Kwanzaa, and I think that's an activism. I think I was doing an organizing.
You know, that was the year I graduated from high school. It was 2005, 2006, right? That school year. And that was the time...
God, see, that surprises me. Because everything about him seems like 60 and old for 60.
War on Christmas campaign. And if you said Happy Holidays instead of Merry Christmas, that was like this big crime.
Yeah, well, yeah, Caleb, maybe you've been time traveling, but they do that every single fucking year. There is nobody, at least nobody in the U.S., maybe he has people outside the U.S. watching this, who is unaware about the War on Christmas bullshit. Practically, I think, nearly every year in my life there's been some version of that, usually with the name War on Christmas.
So to teach these kids about, you know, these kids were all white and they were all Christian, but to let them know that there are other holidays out there, and that, I mean, in a way, it was kind of an activist-y thing to do, and it was kind of fun too. I mean, the kids thought Kwanzaa was very, very, very cool. So there you go. And you know, yeah, you can look in.
Okay, okay. Here's the thing. Given that Caleb Maupin loves to accuse people of being informants when they're not ones. I'm kind of impressed. Maybe he actually doesn't know this, but the guy who first came up with Kwanzaa was on the FBI payroll.
Into the history, right?
And he's
Kwanzaa
not mentioning it.
Was started by Ron Karenga, Dr. Ron Karenga.
Okay, here we go. Maybe I'll be wrong.
Who was a black nationalist. He was against the Black Panthers, right? And the FBI kind of used him to attack some Black Panthers. So Kwanzaa itself has a shady past.
Oh, okay, credit.
A lot of, you know, revolutionaries who admire black nationalism don't admire Kwanzaa because it's associated with this guy who killed Black Panthers.
Okay, and it's like, okay, you could have just had the story about, you know, the fun, relatable experience of you explaining, like, Kwanzaa to some kids. And instead, now you've decided to tell us the history of Kwanzaa, which...
I think Ann Coulter wrote an article called Kwanzaa, the Holiday Brought to You by the FBI. There's a whole shady history there. But regardless, teaching a class full of fourth graders in my little tiny town about Kwanzaa was a great experience, and I'm really glad that I did it. So there you go. I taught a class of kids who were all white about Kwanzaa. All right. How about this one? I don't hold pens correctly. Folks, I don't hold pens correctly. Anyone who's met me in real life, people always notice it. They say, why don't you hold your pen correctly?
Okay, and this camera angle sort of guarantees that we can't get a really good look at that. But this is the... See, I kind of hope I don't ever actually meet... Actually, he showed up in chat on this very stream a couple of months ago. And I blocked him straight away because I have absolutely no desire to interact with him. Yeah... I think that how he holds pens might very well be on not make the short list of things I would ask him about.
I have long bony fingers, you know, and I just, you know, you're supposed to hold it like this, but I just don't do it. I hold my pens like this. I write like this. I always have. And people notice it and they just are perplexed. And when I was in school, they tried so hard to make me write normally with a pen. They were so determined to make me write normally with a pen. I had teacher would always, like, she would see me and she would, like, force my hand into the right position, like 2-3 times a day. Hold your pencil right, hold your pencil right. First grade, second grade, third grade, fifth grade, they just kind of gave up on me, right?
Okay, and I will say, I had actually very similar experiences, and one of the best moments of my entire school career was when they sort of gave up on trying to force me to get the exact same result a different way that was a pain in the ass to me.
I hold my pens like this. I don't hold them like you're supposed to, like this. This position doesn't fit with my fingers, right? I hold my pens like this. I always have. I write strangely, right?
Yeah, and that's not just style, that's content, too.
So there you go. So I don't hold my pens correctly, and great attempts were made throughout my educational experience to force me to hold my pen correctly. I
How
just am
long
not
is he gonna
capable
go
of
on
doing
this?
it with my long, bony fingers. So there you go. Alrighty. I don't hold pens correctly. What else? Oh, I aspired to be a screenwriter and playwriter. That's what I wanted to do. When I was a kid, I
God, why? Well, I know why he didn't do that, because I mean, look at it. Look at how he tells a story.
had it in my head that I was going to be a screenwriter. I was going to make movies. I bought books. My
God,
parents
can you
even
imagine
for my
having this
birthday would give
fucking
me
guy as
books
a
on how to be a
teacher? You'd fall
screenwriter, the
asleep.
principles of style. I learned how to write a screenplay. That the special format where, like, the person who says the line, their name is like center, right, and then you have the text in the middle. And you have, very, very intense, complicated, like, scene descriptions. And it's, I wanted to be a screenwriter.
I actually did too. When I was like 13, I wrote wrote quite a lot of an attempt at Terminator 3 in proper screenplay form and everything.
And, I really loved Ian Fleming. I read all the James Bond books, and I thought Ian Fleming had this really, really, romantic lifestyle. I mean, he lived on, like, an island off the coast of Jamaica, and and I don't know. I thought Ian Fleming was this amazing writer, and he was rich, and I liked Arthur Miller, and I read about Arthur Miller, and thought he had this amazing lifestyle, and I was going to be a screenwriter. That's what I was going to do, and I really liked horror movies. I really liked, the Hammer films, right? Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing. And I had it in my mind I was going to be a horror movie writer. I was going to write vampire movies. I was going to write action movies like Ian Fleming, and I was going to be this writer. And that's what I.
And then somebody pointed out how absolutely mind-numbing your attempts at telling even the simplest, most exciting fucking story are.
Aspired to be. I aspired to be this screenwriter and playwriter. And I wrote a couple plays. I wrote, in my church, I remember the minister gave a sermon about Ulrich Zwingli, who was a leader of the Reformation in Switzerland, who the church I grew up in, traced its heritage back to Ulrich Zwingli and the Swiss Reform movement or whatever. So I remember I wrote this play, and it was performed by my church. And it was this whole
That hat doesn't know what it wants to be.
thing. I wrote this whole play about the life of Ulrich Zwingli. Yeah, I mean, I was, yeah, I mean, I wanted to be a playwright. I wanted to be a screenwriter.
God, did you want to be a fucking playwright or a screenwriter?
And then I got political, right? 9/11, I couldn't escape politics, got into politics, and at that point, I got political and, had no desire to be a screenwriter or a playwright. I wanted to be political.
Okay, since when do those two things exclude each other? There are some very political screenwriters out there and some even more political playwrights. Not playwriters. How do these two things... What, do you think... Okay, I bet I'm actually beginning to sort of understand where he gets his SEIU full-timer attitude from. He literally does not think that it is possible to just be a member of the working class and also have political consciousness and action.
Wanted to, fight against U.S. imperialism, and yeah, when I got political, my desire to be a screenwriter faded away. But that was what I had set out to do when I was young. All right.
He's ticking these off on a list. He could have just written a script for this.
Number 9. My grandmother was a feminist. Very interesting. So my grandmother, right, my mother's mother, was quite a woman. She was from Cuyahoga Falls, Ohio, and I guess, so her father had been a coal miner, and her mother, had been married to him, obviously, but then, she was like one of a number of children. I think 5 or 6, 7 or 8, 9 children, and when the Great Depression hit, when everyone was desperate for food, they arranged for her to live with her aunt and uncle in Cuyahoga Falls, Ohio. So that's where she grew up. So she was raised actually by her aunt and uncle because of the Great Depression. And in Cuyahoga Falls, Ohio, she was the valedictorian of her class. And she graduated from high school in like the mid-1930s. And she was the valedictorian. And for a woman to be the valedictorian of their class in the 1930s was not very common. And she got a full...
It's like he keeps on repeating the same sentence and elaborating with one more detail. I feel like this was a game that we played in fucking summer camp at some point. You take the one sentence, you hear the one sentence from the last person, then you have to get that verbatim and add a detail to it. This is his way of telling a story.
Ride. She went to college at Otterbein University, I believe. Or I believe it was it Otterbein, or I forget which college she went to. I don't think it was that. I think it was another one. But she got a full ride because she'd been the valedictorian of her high school. And she was a nurse. She was in the Army Corps of Nurses during the Second World War. And she treated people who'd been injured during D-Day. And she said that was quite an experience. When all those guys were storming the beaches and getting shot and whatever, and she was in London, they would fly him back to a hospital, and she took care of people who had their arms and legs blown off and stuff from Normandy,
and he manages to, I mean, any pathos that's in that, he's managed to just completely shit it out.
The invasion of Normandy. But then the story...
That must have been quite an experience. Christ, I mean, to tell a story like this...
that always stood out about her, that really made her a feminist, I guess, was that when my mother was in high school, they had a policy at the high school that my mother went to, that if a girl was pregnant, she was expelled from school, right? And that was the way that they did things. That's the old style. Now,
I mean, we had that policy, except it was sort of on the QT, so... On the one hand, you weren't expelled, but on the other hand, if you needed a kind of accommodation to deal with the pregnancy or with having the kid afterwards, you basically were totally on your own, and so you were encouraged to drop out.
Now they have, they have like a special way, like they have tutors who go to their house, or, if a teenage girl gets pregnant, she can still go to high school. But... they had this policy, getting pregnant, automatically expelled from school, right? So my grandmother heard about this policy, right, and was outraged about it. She said, that is not right. And she went to the school board, and she got up, and she gave this thunderous, angry speech to the school board, just yelled at them. How dare you? How dare you? We want the people the children in our community to have parents who are educated. How dare you kick teenage girls out of school? Deny them the ability to get a high school diploma for getting pregnant. How dare you? And she just screamed, like everyone was like, and this was like the early 1970s, right? In a small town. It was just not.
Oh, okay. That was a bit of pertinent detail that was not entirely clear to me. I thought we were still talking about the 40s.
Not the kind of thing that you did, right? But my grandmother she couldn't stand it.
Well, I don't know. In the 1970s, getting up and yelling at local government institutions was actually very much a very popular thing to do, even more so than the 60s.
And she had a reputation for this, and people would talk about it years later. They'd be like, my grandma, your grandmother, she's the one who went and screamed at the school board for I mean, so that was my grandmother. That was my grandmother, right? So there you go. My grandmother was a feminist. She definitely was a feminist. She died in, I think,
Okay,
20.
okay, one second, because his explanation for why neither he nor Alexander Dugin is a Nazbol is that they are not in an organization with Nazbol in the name. He's made similar arguments on why other people can't possibly be other political things that they very much are. But his grandmother is definitely a feminist despite apparently not identifying in any way as one. Sort of a bit of a double standard there. I mean, cool thing his grandmother did, though. I mean, that rocked. Not and nothing on his grandmother, but I just this bit of a double standard because if she's a feminist because she did a feministy kind of thing, then why aren't you, Caleb, a Nazbol for doing some very Nazbol-y things?
In 2012 she died, and I went to her memorial service. People told the stories about her. I was close to her in high school and all of that. I mean, I grew up around my grandmother, but I went back to Ohio for her memorial, and people remembered her as a feminist. She was definitely a feminist. She was a high achieving woman. That she died in her 90s. I think she was like 92 when she died, and very high achieving woman. She'd been through the Second World War, and yeah, my grandmother was definitely a feminist. Bet you didn't know that about me. All right, and the last of the 10 things you didn't know about Caleb was that at one point I was obsessed with the musical Hair. I don't know if people know about the musical Hair.
Actually, this seems very much consistent with type for him that this would be the musical he'd be obsessed with.
The musical Hair was the ultimate hippie musical, right? The Age of Aquarius, Let the Sunshine In. I was obsessed with Hair at one point in my life. I had not just I had the CD of Hair. I had the original vinyl record album. I had the script of Hair. I knew about songs that had been originally cut from the show. I knew Hair like the back of my hand. It was weird.
Okay, well, there's an there's a joke to be made there, but I haven't actually seen the back of its hand, so I don't know if it can be made.
It's a Broadway musical from the 1970s. Stupid counterculture, but it was, and when I was like a teenager, I thought the musical Hair was the coolest thing ever. And I don't know why. Definitely not my views now. Now I'm ranting against synthetic left and counterculture and all that. But I thought the musical Hair, the song "Walking in Space" about their LSD trip. Um, what else? I mean, it's about a draftee. I mean, it's a musical. The main character is like going to be drafted into the U.S. military, and he doesn't want to go, and so he spends the musical kind of walking around and talking to different hippies about whether he should join the military and taking drugs and having sex, and it's rock and roll, and it was a big hit in the late 60s. It was on Broadway. It was a hit. It was just like a hit.
Was it like a hit?
And obviously that I wasn't, I liked theater. I had an uncle who was a theater professor and all that, but I hadn't ever heard of a play like that. So I got really into the musical Hair. And in fact, the musical Hair was very, very controversial because when it was performed on Broadway, the climax of the first act.
Okay, I did not need to hear Caleb Maupin say the word climax.
The climax of the first act of Hair involved the cast walking onto the stage completely naked, right? As the audience is, the character burns his draft card, and then the audience, or not the audience, but the chorus is singing the words "beads, flowers, freedom, happiness," and then the entire cast of the musical walks onto the stage naked, right? And that was, of course, very controversial, and having a public Broadway play. And then someone dressed as a police officer walks onto the stage and arrests the audience for 15 minutes to have the intermission. It was quite a Broadway play. It was like a hippie play. It was a counterculture play. And, I don't think much of it now, but at the time I thought it was the coolest thing ever. So there you go. You now know 10 things about Caleb that you did not know before. I guess they're kind of political in a way. They're kind of political, right? My grandma. You now know that I won $100 for impersonating Elvis, that I spent 2 weeks on Eagle Butte Reservation.
I want to know how the Elvis impersonating thing was political.
That I had an uncle who was in Hollywood movies.
You don't need to summarize it back to us.
And playwright. That my grandfather gave me a shotgun. That I don't hold pens correctly. That I have a theory about the Washington Monument. That
God, and his theory, okay, I mean, is just a really, really long way to set up a not very rewarding dick joke.
I taught a class of white kids about Kwanzaa, that my grandmother was a feminist, and that I was at one point obsessed with the musical Hair. Those are 10 things you did not know about me that you now know. So feel very, very lucky to know about those things. I'm just killing time here, Corona streaming. But people think it's better when I talk about things like this. When I tell little anecdotes and stories, it's better, right?
No, because you're really not good at it. What you need is a screenwriter to write your anecdotes for you, and then maybe a couple of actors to recite them in a more exciting way.
So there you go. I'm telling you anecdotes and stories, trying to pass the time, trying to enjoy myself. But if there's anything...
He's just trying to pass the time, and he's wearing a fucking starched shirt. What the...
Anything else people want me to talk about, I'll happily talk about it. I have some books here I can talk to you about. I have some books here. JT24 says, Caleb is very fascinating. Well, thank you,
No, he fucking isn't.
JT24. I think I'm fascinating as well, don't we?
Yeah, that much I got.
We all think
we all know that.
But seriously, I enjoy getting to know you all. I want to know you all. That's one of the best things about this Discord, is I just wanted to know who the people were. I have no idea who you are. I have you call out your names and locations, but I have no idea who you are. But you all are with me. There's hundreds of you. There's thousands of people who watch these live. I mean, look at the unique view count and all of that. There's thousands of people that love to just listen to Caleb ramble about politics every week.
And the thing is, he says ramble.
What's up, Jesse Sobella?
Oh, hold on. Was not trying to do that. Okay. Not gonna do another one just
right
yet.
in.
Oh, no. That's not what we're doing. We just did this, Caleb. And it really was not... Jesus. On my worst day, I have not told a story that blandly. So I hold a pen wrong. Yeah, there's a way you hold your pen, and yeah, I don't do it. I just don't do it. Bony fingers, you see. Yeah, and there's a way you hold your pen, see, and the thing is, I do it wrong. I mean, he says rambling as like this self-deprecating thing. Oh, you're come to listen to my ramblings. Except the thing is, it's actually true. It's just random shit. It's like random shit told unexcitingly. Jesus. Play a little bit of Rapid to sort of cleanse my palate. Jesus. Oh, getting white again. We're doing this. Okay, E4, I'm guessing. Yep. fair trade, I would say. Yep, thank you. You probably get a rook off of this as well. Oh, no, too late for the rook. Okay, let's cast it to safety. Yeah, he really is. It's like, I don't even understand how he's managed to get as far as he has in the world of political cult building. Because usually part of that is like some kind of charisma. Like, it's negative charisma. I've never actually read his writing, but I mean, certainly off the cuff, video is definitely just not for him. I mean, I have trouble working without a script a bit if I haven't got something to play off of. But Jesus Christ. It's like, it's just painful. Like, I watch people who can talk about chess, which is an easy subject to make sound boring. It is very easy to be able to talk about chess in a way that isn't exciting, because it's so involved. There's so much stuff that you have to, you know, it can be as dry as Volume 1 of Capital. But I watch people who can take that and can just make it absolutely, even for relative lay people, make it just really exciting to listen to. And then you got Caleb Boppin, who can take things that are often inherently exciting and make them the most boring shit you ever heard. Well, actually thinking about it, no, I have actually read some of his writing. I did, I looked at a bootleg PDF of his book on BreadTube on this very stream a month or so ago. And Jesus, that sucked. Yes, ponderous, and when you shake off the water weight, there's just not much in it. It's like a small, long-haired cat. Yeah, you give a small... if for some reason you have the masochism to give a long-haired cat a bath, or any cat really, but a long-haired cat especially, and suddenly you discover there's actually not much cat there, that's Caleb Maupin's writing, actually, in a nutshell. Aww. Oh, I can imagine. Okay. Oh, Jesus. Baths every day. I mean, once a day, once is bad enough. Like, I had a cat. I had to wear a navy pea coat to bathe him, just to keep my skin on me. Oh, that just sounds miserable. Down here. Okay. Oh. Okay, there's no square that knight can go to that my queen can't touch. Aww. Oh, it's like a lovely cat. I had one who knew how to open doors. So what, as prosthetic whiskers, so she would, like, just stick it in her mouth and walk around with it like that, or? Aww. I love zooming kittens. Resignation, really? That seems like a little bit much. I mean, as far as I can tell, I mean, I'm not doing terribly, but I would have said that that Black's position's a bit better. Apart from, I mean, yeah, that knight's trapped, but it's still two rooks and a knight, and much nicer pawn structure than mine. But okay. Oh. Oh, okay. Let me just... Okay, everybody, just so everybody sees the cute story that I'm oohing and hawing about the prosthetic whiskers and the koosh ball and the cat that was a bath addict, which is truly amazing to me. Can't imagine a cat that actually likes water. I did have one who enjoyed filling up the sink. Like, perfectly filling it up. With himself, I mean, not like that. Oh, I miss having a cat. Okay, this is a very wholesome way to sort of bring this one home. Lovely kitten stories. Oh. I get a mild allergic reaction to cats as well. I just, like, don't give a shit because I just love them so much. Like, I had cats around me since I was born, and so I have a very special relationship with the species. And it's funny how random cats who I've never met before seem to pick up on that a bit. Oh. Did she ever find out the truth? Oh. Sorry. How did she react? How many years? Like, how long are we talking? Oh. Well, that's the spirit to take it in when cats do unbelievable things. They're just such fascinating little creatures. I had one who would disappear. I was living in a small flat at the time, and he would just sort of randomly disappear, and I couldn't figure out where he was going. Like, it wasn't anywhere, and then I would start, and then, this would happen every few days for weeks. And then, finally I'm sort of looking around, and he's nowhere to be found, and I hear this smacking sound, and somehow he has made it into my bathroom cupboards, which I had already fortified against feline entry from because I caught him there the last time. I set it up a way that I thought there was no way he could possibly get in. I took like one of those incense boards that you stick the incense into, and a belt, and pulled it really, really tight so that I thought there's no way a cat can get in. And no, he actually managed to pull the door open, hold it open against all the resistance that I had created, and get in and out with no difficulty. And that was the smartest cat I ever had. Oh yeah? Let's hear it. Like, small enough to ride your shoulder small? Okay, and where'd the tiny tuxedo turn out to be? Was this cat manipulating the power meter? Yeah, cats will do that. Oh, okay. Thought your cat might have found some sort of ductwork to get all the way down there and fuck with the power meter. Oh, I love that. Was she able to get out of this drawer on her own, or did she get stuck when she went in there? Oh, well, that's good. Otherwise, that drawer could become a very complicated situation. Cats just love to find ways to make themselves fit. They don't even particularly care if there's anything worthwhile when they get there. They just want to make themselves fit. Pet. Okay, and now it is nearing 1 o'clock, so it's time to wrap this up for the night, but I will be back tomorrow, same time, 11:30 EDT to 1 a.m. And I'd love to hear more of these stories. You seem to have some incredible cats. Okay, thank you for joining us and everything. Have a good night.